All right, welcome back in. Joining us now, David Locke. DJ's off. Tim LaComb sitting in. Mr. Locke, man, good morning. How the heck are you?
Well, I'd better now because I'm talking to Patrick Kinahan. That means it's complete week. Things don't get much better than that. And I'm not going to comment on whether I think that Tim LaComb is an upgrade from the great David James or not. But it's awfully nice to talk to Tim LaComb also. How are you, Timmy?
What's up, my friend? I was just talking about the detail with which DJ goes into on stories. I'm not quite that detailed, but we're having a good time.
So I actually need to know something.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna reveal the hidden secret of my interviews.
Okay.
So the reason I usually come on the show is because Patrick Kinahan can have breakfast throughout the morning because DJ never shuts up and he tells a long story. And so PK can just eat during the show. It's not a problem. But my role is so that DJ can have breakfast.
Oh, there you go.
I come on the show, talk for so long every single time that then DJ can have breakfast. So I need to know, Timmy, have you had breakfast yet today?
I've got my Diet Coke right here, but more importantly, I'm just excited. I haven't heard your voice on the air for a while, so this is comfortable. I got headphones on, Diet Coke to my left, and you in my ears.
Okay, I do a podcast every day if you really miss me, but that's okay.
No, I'm saying to be able to interact. You can't talk back to me there.
I've been wanting to text you. Have you watched Tre Johnson?
I have.
And what do you think? I'm kind of in.
I am kind of in too.
Me too.
Yeah, I really like him. What's not to like, right?
Yeah, and I don't actually understand the criticisms. That's what I really like.
What are they? What have you heard?
So the criticisms are obviously doesn't play defense because he's 18 years old. Okay, great. I have yet to there's right.
Who has?
Right. Why would he? Right. then he's a ball hog, but I don't see that at all. And then he doesn't get to the rim. And frankly, I kind of see that a little bit, but boy, his teammates suck.
Yeah, spacing was not a thing, right?
Right. Yeah. And so I see him get to the rim when he can. And I've seen him finish both right and left. And then I'd be curious your thoughts on this one, Tim, because sometimes I think an individual play can overly excite me. So there's a play. Oh, shoot, what game? I've watched 5 games. Maybe against UConn. Did they play UConn? Yeah, because I think I was watching Liam McNally also. So he grabs a rebound, which he doesn't do very often. Again, though, I don't think that's him. I think that's their system. And he takes 2 dribbles out and throws an underhand, right-hand, bowling ball, motion, pass to a streaking big man, 45 feet up the floor, and hits him on the spot.
Pistol Pete.
And to me, right, but to me, to me, that just tells me, 1, that he thought about it, 2, that he had enough confidence, his mind was oh, I'll just do it this way. I think those plays matter. Am I overplaying that? Because it's not to me that it's a highlight. It's that there's a uniqueness to what your skill set has to be that you actually did that.
Well, and that's what we look for and see on a nightly basis in the league, are guys doing those types of things. And I think one of the harder things to do, like you said, is to watching Isaiah Collier's film last year, for instance. I had in my mind, based on looking at numbers, knowing USC that year being a disappointment, I went in with this idea that, okay, he can't shoot, can't do this, can't do that. And I watched the film and the stuff stood out to me that you just talked about. This is not all done in a vacuum. And you're trying to translate with impeccable spacing, with elite athletes around him running the floor. What kind of plays can this guy make? And I think you've hit that one on the head.
He's low on steals, rebounds, and some of those, so it just looks like he's just shooting. But I also thought that they were pretty on the offensive glass. He never crashed; he always went back. And on the defensive glass, I wasn't sure where he was supposed to be getting his rebounds. So, do you buy that as a criticism?
Yeah, I mean, but you could say that about so many guys. Again, I think at this stage you're looking for somebody that can. I mean, I love the fact that he can light it up. He led the SEC in scoring, and his length. He's
6'6",
6'6", but like a 6'10" wingspan
with the afro.
Right. With the wing. No,
right.
I said wingspan.
Oh, okay.
This isn't Fletch.
Okay.
Bradley Beal.
What, comp?
Yeah.
What do you think, Tim?
He's not that big, is he?
Who?
Are you saying that's how he plays?
Beal or Johnson isn't as big?
Is Beal as big as Johnson?
I don't think so.
I thought so. I thought they measured pretty close to the same.
You know who he kind of reminds me of is a Cam Thomas.
Well, so that's the criticism on him, right?
Right.
I think Cam Thomas is thicker.
Yeah, he's thicker. I'm just saying the ability to score the ball. I mean, there's lots of parts of Cam Thomas's game I like, and again, part of his deal is he's damned by his situation.
Right. Yeah, we're going to criticize Cam Thomas for being too much of a ball hog on a terrible team and score 25 a game. Like, okay. Like, I just don't think there's that many guys that can score 25 a game. I think this kid can score 25 a game.
Right.
He'll score 20 a game.
Which is really hard to do.
You think he'll score 20 a game? When?
Third year in the league. Maybe second. Maybe first if he's drafted by the Jazz.
Well, they got to take him then.
Like, if he plays for us next year and various roster changes happen, we'll score 95 points every game. Promise. The way the world works. Someone's got to do them.
That's right.
Then they absolutely have to take him. You like him better than Edgecombe, or you don't think Edgecombe will be available?
I have not watched enough of Edgecombe. That's my next project.
I think he may be gone by then.
As of right now, I like Tre Johnson more than Edgecombe, but I also have a tendency to really, really like guys that can shoot the basketball.
I will say David was on the first year I did the draft coverage. It was the Doak year. And going into it, Dave and I always talk the week before, and we had to reveal our guy. And David was pretty hell-bent on Desmond Bane, but if there was a second, it was our guy that's killing it for Minnesota.
McDaniels.
Jade McDaniels.
McDaniels. So those were his two, and I was pretty set on Bane.
Both of you guys were more right than the guy making the decision, unfortunately. And that's no knock on this guy making a decision because nobody makes.
No, it's hard. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard to do.
Right. Right. And I mean, when you're drafting 27, 28, 29, sometimes the easiest thing to do is find the guy you think will be able to play 15, 20 minutes a night. And you would have thought that would Doak.
Hey, what's your take on Knipple? Because I really like him too.
So I just watched him. I just watched a lot of him. So I'm actually going to go to – he actually ran a decent amount of pick and rolls for Duke. But the player he reminds me a little bit of, and the question of whether he could be this player, I don't know, is Devin Booker out of Kentucky. Not Devin Booker, Phoenix Suns, but Devin Booker out of Kentucky. So Devin Booker out of Kentucky was a really good player. He ran 14 pick and rolls, I think, the entire year. So you had to project everything about Devin Booker as though he was going to do something totally different than what he did in college. So in my opinion, if Knipple's going to be really good, he's going to have to be probably one of your primary ball handlers, be running pick and roll at 6'6", seeing the floor, and doing all of that kind of stuff. And with Cooper Flagg and Proctor and everyone else, he didn't get to do that. He actually ran, I think, about 70, so it's not as severe as Devin Booker's situation. But that's what I see on Knipple is, okay, yeah, I got he can shoot it. I'm not sure I bought his drive game is he comes to 2 feet, he pump fakes you, moves you around, and then puts the ball off the glass usually to score. I'm not convinced that's still going to work, so I think I'm a little nervous he can become very perimeter focused, and I don't know that I think he can play a pick and roll game where he's getting on top of the cup. And then the second question I have on him, best shooter in the draft, right? I mean, that's just set.
I'd push back a little bit on that. He shot 40% from three, and Johnson shot 39.7, and Johnson clearly had to be much more of a defensive focus by the opposition than Knipple was.
Yeah, I think that's the thing on Tre Johnson that jumps out to me more than anything else. And I think I've watched 5 Tre Johnson games. One of them was super early, 2 Oklahoma-Texas games, the Connecticut game, and they played Georgia. I watched that, but I can't remember what game, that other game. And like in the third game of the year, the commentators were like, okay, well, the defensive focus is on Tre Johnson. Like he's 18 years old, the defensive focus is on. I agree with you, PK. Like I think that's the separator right there is that this kid was the number one person on the game plan to start the whole entire time. the other one on Knippel is I did in every game I watched of Duke, which is 3, I saw him get beat at some point super badly on a dribble move, something of that sort. He generally seemed fine defensively, but that also had Malowich and Cooper Flagg behind him.
Right.
And so I'm a little wondering what happens to him on an NBA floor with a little bit more space, of whether or not he gets exposed defensively. And like, let's just say it also, there's just every stereotype about a white kid coming out of the draft. You those are all in your head too, right? Like with TJ Leaf and every other, really good white kid that comes in and supposed to be a top 10 pick and then doesn't, Doug McDermott, and then they're just okay. Like Jimmer Fredette, like it's like the American white kid is a hard.
There's no question. I had a coach tell me the American white shooter is the most overrated player in the draft every year.
Right.
I got a name for you too.
By the way, I don't love the 6'6" or 6'5", 6'6" wingspan either.
Yeah, right. That coupled with the struggle to move your feet is not a good combo.
Yeah. I don't think I can do. I think he'll be a fine. All right. So actually, let's just say this. This is the biggest problem I have in all draft analysis ever. In fact, I was literally just on the phone this week with Locked On NBA Big Board, which is our podcast for Locked On the draft. And I finally just told him, like, I can't handle this anymore. 50% of the players after the 8th, 9th pick of the draft don't make it. Let's stop talking about everyone's awesome. They are all awesome, but they're about to move from a world in which there's 300 Division I teams, and so let's say there's 5 good players on every team. You're one of 1,500, and you're trying to move into the realm of being one of 200. Like, this is the steepest jump they'll take in their basketball career. And it's brutal and incredibly difficult, and guys throw up on themselves all the time doing it. So if we're talking about these guys honestly and saying there's a real chance that Con Knippel gets in the NBA and has no chance. That's the truth. That's not being critical or saying he's not very good. He's jumping from one of the top 1,500 players in collegiate, one of the top 2,000 to one of the top 200. It's a massive jump. Right?
Yeah, so, there's no bigger.
When we talk, right, so there's a chance, okay, let's go to Tre Johnson for a second. Here's the number that should concern you on Tre Johnson. He shot 40% from 3 in college. On the NYBL, isn't that what it's called? I think on a high school thing, He shot 34. Okay, which sample size is real? Because if Tre Johnson turns out to not be a 37, 38% three-point shooter, he doesn't do enough other things. Right?
And it's so interesting. I think the point you made about, because I was listening on the way in, I was, fashionably late. The show started at 6. I was here at 8. But so on my drive up, I listened to PK, and he was talking with a draft analyst from CBS. And he was talking about, basically with the Jazz, you take the best player available. And the crazy part in this is I'm looking back just after you said how uncertain this is. I just pulled up randomly the 2020 draft. And at number 2 in that draft, you have James Wiseman. Oh.
But everybody thought he was amazing at this point.
At 5, you have Okoro.
Who you kind of, right? Can't shoot.
At 6, you have Okonkwo. 7, Killian Hayes.
Can't play at all. Out of the league.
I'm skipping, you got Halliburton at 12. Halliburton at 12, that worked well. Neesmith at 14, which was another. That's working. That's another Ainge,
right.
Fine.
But also worth noting that worked on second team.
Right, second team.
Yeah.
Pokachevsky was 17.
That's a town in southern Idaho, isn't it?
Numbers, darling, by the way.
Sadiq Bey, 19.
But
that's my point. Is that's one draft we just went through, right. And there's a bunch of guys that 5 years removed, their names aren't even around. R.J. Hampton,
right?
It's crazy,
right? And that's the thing. I think you have to be really honest about this draft analysis. Is when you sit around talking about R.J. Hampton at that point, everyone talks about he's great. Okay, but it's more likely that these players we're talking about are not going to be rotation players. Top five, we're into a different route. Those guys almost all end up playing. Like one out of, I think the rate on bust on top 5 players is 1 out of 10 bust. So every other year.
That's wild.
But hey, now let me just say this. This is, I think, the most important thing. A year ago, we were doing this, and I liked Cody Williams a lot. And Cody Williams just had arguably the worst NBA season maybe that a player's had in 20 years.
I don't know. I've been as excited. Like you and I were when that thing fell, and we were both pretty darn.
I'm with you guys.
Right.
DJ, I identified him in November.
Right. So the only thing I would say that's very different about scouting this year and so like Tom Kniffel versus Cody Williams and some of these things. On Cody Williams, if you actually go back to our conversations a year ago, the two plays that I talked about the most on Cody Williams were actually both turnovers. They were both plays where he burst through 2 defenders, got through, and then was off balance and did something. One pass went up into the third row, and the other one he threw a wild. That draft was so poor that you were literally scouring for little tiny flashes of pieces that makes you think that maybe they'd be okay one day. Right? So I literally watched Cody Williams and saw those two. Those were unique to most players I saw in this draft because most guys couldn't shoot, couldn't do a bunch of other things, were so glaring. Watching this year is totally different than that. The kid Will Riley out of Illinois might be really good. We get him at 21 of these right. Danny Wolf out of Michigan is interesting. I would actually, to the Jazz credit, I think he's Kyle Filipowski light, and he's going to go 17 in this draft and flip, went 32. And I think Kyle Filipowski's better than Danny Wolf. Danny Wolf's really interesting, though. He's a 7-footer that can handle. He can do all sorts of really interesting things. He has no verticality. He can't stretch out. He might not be able to play at all by the time he gets to the league because he can't defend and he can't do various things. He's really a 3 in a body that's going to make him try to play a 4 or 5. And he might not be able to do it, which is exactly what Filipowski is. But so I would just say this draft is so much better when I watch players like Liam McNelly out of Connecticut. But there's more there than most of the guys I watched last year. This draft is just so much better.
Well, I'm going to still hold the Jazz accountable because they went all these trades with the picks and they lost on purpose to get these picks. So now they've got to come through, even if the draft picks aren't that good historically. It doesn't matter. The Jazz still need to get good players because that's the way they've chosen to rebuild.
Yeah, no, there's no question. I mean, I'm not right. And you've got to. You're going to probably have 3 top 5 range picks here coming up in the next 3 years. You got to hit on 2 of them.
Okay.
You don't have a choice. You have to hit. You have to hit on 2 of them.
Yeah, I agree.
And so this is the first one. Timmy, what's your quick thought on Edgecombe? You've probably watched him more than I have.
I really like his burst. The game that I watched him live in Provo against BYU, and just the way he moves, his ability to create his own shot. He's got good vision, good IQ. I like him, if anything, maybe a teeny bit small. I'm a little bit nervous about smaller guards nowadays.
Yeah.
But I like what I see from a skill standpoint and also from just a basketball feel standpoint.
What position is he? A 1 or a 2?
I think
or does it not matter?
I don't. With him, I don't think it matters. He kind of shared duty with the guy at Baylor, Robert Wright the third. It's
Wright,
not
yeah.
a Cougar.
Yeah.
So they kind of.
He. By the way, I hope the other Cougars don't want the ball.
Robert likes to shoot.
The Bantam might. I don't know. I'm just Saunders might. I don't know. Maybe.
Woo!
It's he gets.
Watch 3 Baylor games. So it's like woo.
Yeah. But he can shoot.
Yes, very good player.
Coach Rose used to tell me I would bring a guy to him and he'd say, "Timmy, can he shoot?" And I would say, "Yeah, Coach, he can shoot." And he said, "Okay, everybody can shoot. Can he make? Is he a maker, not a shooter? I want a maker."
Right. Wright's a maker.
Yeah, Wright's a maker. David, this has been fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, wait a sec. Victor Oladipo
He's not the draftable. I think he's on the outside.
on VJ Edgecombe.
Yeah. There's some. That's a good call.
Okay.
All right. Hey, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week, okay?
See you guys.
See ya.
All right. That's the lock, man. I'd take old Depot comp right now. Sign me up. I know he's had some injuries and all that stuff, but aside from that,
But we came out of this feeling really good about Tre Johnson. Yeah, is that your guy? Are you ready to say that yet?
Not yet,
Okay.
but I'm growing. I'm drawing closer. We shall see. Okay, we're going to give away tickets to Hardy right now. Free tickets. Caller 12 801 575 zone. That's 575-9663. Win a pair of tickets to see Hardy on the Jim Bob World Tour, and that's next Thursday at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. So get in line. Start calling 801-575-ZONE, 575-9666. We'll have more of this talk. Stay with us. Coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.